This episode of the Jiu-Jitsu Times podcast is brought to you in part by No Judges Needed BJJ Apparel and Lavender Lane CBD products. You can use the promo code JJT for 20% off your first order at No Judges Needed, and the code JJ Times 20, all uppercase. Last two items are numerical for 20% off your first order of CBD products. Thank you very much for sticking with us. Enjoy the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Jiu-Jitsu Times podcast. I am your host, Kevin Bradley, joined as always by my co-host, Mr. Kevin Gallagher. And today we are joined by a staple in the MMA Jiu-Jitsu community down south. You might have seen him compete in major grappling promotions or in MMA with the UFC once upon a time. Please welcome to the JJT studio, Rob Kahn, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, Matt Arroyo. Matt, thank you so much for coming by. How you doing, sir?
Thanks for having me. I'm doing great.
I'm glad to hear it, just because the world is, still so up and down with gyms opening and closing. It's good to hear people are doing well. I'm just going to get right into it. What is it like putting up with Kevin Gallagher, maybe more than any other person has to on the face of the earth?
Oh, man. I sit in my office most days, and he's out there teaching private lessons, and I hear him just talking all that stuff to different people, and always finding an angle somewhere, always doing something crazy, saying something crazy. I'm in there just laughing most of the day. He called one of his private lessons his golden goose, like on the first day. He's like, yo, man, I'm not going to hurt you. You're my golden goose. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, my God.
I forgot about that, but I have told many people on this podcast that you do impersonations, and I have heard that you do an amazing Kevin Gallagher impersonation. So I'm going to make you do that before the end of the show, just because I've talked it up. I've never heard it. I'm going to put you on the spot and make you do that. But we'll get back to that later. But Matt's very, very true with that. I tend to spin some yarns with my private lessons. My mouth opens, and I'm not even sure the words of what I'm saying anymore coming out of my mouth, but it's fun to behold, man.
After his 10th private of the day, he's just
exactly. You start to dig deep. Yep. So dope, man. Obviously, one thing you left off about Matt that we're going to get back to again is that he's an ADCC trials winner. What year did you win it in?
The trials, I won in 14, and then I competed in Abu Dhabi 15.
Yeah, 2015 in Brazil. So Matt is quite the accomplished grappler, and as well as UFC fighter as well. We're going to get back to that in a little bit too. But first of all, let's talk a little bit about what happened this weekend. Obviously, you've been coaching Billy Q from day one, and we were supposed to have two guys on the fight. Unfortunately, Matt Frevola broke his foot literally the last round of the last sparring session before he was going to do absolutely nothing before he went back to go fight the following week. He broke his foot. But Billy Q really showed up, man. Tell us a little bit about the fight and how things went down.
Yeah, Billy Q was going against a guy named Kyle Nelson, and we had a full training camp, 2 months, knowing exactly who we're fighting, which especially right now is very rare. And, we game plan. We broke the kid down. We know what he does well. He had a lot of power, knockout power, one-punch knockout power. His last fight, he just came off a knockout by elbow from the clinch against Polo Reyes, who's actually a very good striker. So we knew there was a threat there. So the plan, but we did see his weakness was he gets tired like in the middle of the second, like a lot of fighters do. And, everybody gets tired, but some people are able to push through the tiredness and not really even look tired. And other people, when they get tired, that's the end of them. So we saw around the middle of round 2, he gets tired a lot, especially when you are in his face and trying to wrestle him and take him down and strike with him and mix martial arts, together. And so that's what we did. And then round 1, Billy Q sometimes starts a little slow. He came out pretty fast in this one. He did eat some shots, but he was also given a lot of good shots. A lot of people had the round 1 scored, Billy, and some people had it round 1 scored, Kyle. So round 1 sometimes looks like that with Billy, but round 2 and 3 are almost always his. People start to die down, and he starts to just warm up. So round 1, they were hitting each other really good. Kyle put him up against the fence a couple times, which, Billy doesn't like that because it makes the fight kind of boring. So he was able to get away, and they were landing shots. And then round 2, Kyle started to slow down a little bit, and Billy started to speed up a little bit, and he was landing lots of good shots, good body shots, head shots everywhere. Took him down a couple times. At the end of round 2, I was saying he was right in front of me, and he stood up and just landed this huge right hand, like it was fist, face, floor, like boom, and just dropped it on him. And I think that was the punch that broke him for the rest of the rest of round 2. So yeah, so round 2 was Billy's 10-9 for sure. And then in between rounds, I guess I got a little blurb there that they were promoting around. I said, because I was thinking, like, you can keep doing what you're doing and we're probably going to win a decision. But I was like, no, you want to go up the rankings, you need to finish right now. So he pretty much listened. 7 seconds into round 3, he walks out, throws a feint, and then a 1-2 that just put him face down. Billy, some people say Billy doesn't have a lot of power, but he really does in that right hand. I've seen him hurt a lot of people in sparring with it, and I've seen him hurt a lot of people in fights with it. That same right hand knocked out Kahn, who was also on the card, a few years ago in a regional promotion. So he's knocked people out before and hurt people with that right hand. So
I've actually gotten the chance to train with Kama once or twice when I was living in Pittsburgh. That guy is seriously hard to deal with. So like more power to Billy. Billy had a few like shots, just like captured photographs from this fight that I would feel comfortable throwing on the cover of like a UFC video game. Like, holy shit, the dude looked absolutely on point from pillar to post, and he does seem to have that late game gas. Was that when he first walked into the gym? Was that something that you guys noticed about him, that he had that gas tank, or was that something he developed from?
No, honestly, in the very beginning, in his amateur career, I mean, he always loved training and fighting and all that, but he didn't work as hard as he does now. I mean, he's never worked as hard as he does now because he's in the UFC, but there was one loss at amateur where he actually, like, one of the only times I've ever seen him really get tired, and he lost a decision. And I think after that match, he vowed to never get tired again. And it was just like a decision he made. And, but yes, I did notice just from watching all the fighters that he didn't get tired as easily. And if he did, he didn't really show it like the others did. So I noticed that was day one for sure. I don't know if it's God-given cardio. I don't know if it's God-given cardio plus hard work, or God-given cardio plus hard work plus, the fact that his brothers beat him up most of his life and became this toughness that not a lot of people have. But something tells me it's a combination of all three.
I listened to you talk a lot about Billy and about the things that make Billy great. And, obviously it's his desire and his drive and his ability to go through. Because I remember yesterday you were talking about this in particular, like going into that third round, like Billy was tired. I mean, There's no question that he wasn't tired. He just went through a very high pace first and second round. In the first round, I'm with you. I kind of thought he lost, but Billy always loses the first round. That's just Billy. It's in his DNA. He almost has to get punched around a little bit to kind of get his brain right. When he came in hard in that second round and started going hard, maybe the first round was close, but you get the general idea. When he came in the second round and he's coming out for that third, like, he's tired, but he's also making a decision, and that decision started months ago during his training. He made the decision to not allow himself to be tired, to be tough enough to push through that, to know that there's going to be a time when he needs to dig deep and finds that internal fortitude to be able to push through. And like Billy has that in spades. And it's toughness is one thing, but like toughness is also a decision that people make in order to do the right thing. And I think Billy has that, man.
Yeah. And you got to remember too, Billy and I was our 31st fight together. So think about 31 training camps that he has gone through, where I make him do 5-minute rounds. So if you take all those 5-minute rounds and all those fights, that's a lot of 5-5s with fresh guys coming in on you. So even if you're tired, it's like another day in the office. Like, all right, I'm tired. This is nothing new. I go through this, how many weeks? So 31 fights, 8-week camps. We do that once a week. That's hundreds and hundreds of 5-minute rounds that he's been through. that he knows in his head that he could do it. His body's going to do it. His mind's going to do it. And, a lot of people don't go through that. So when they do hit that wall, it's new. It's like, oh man, because you get the ego guys that don't want to hit the wall in the training because they don't want to get hurt or beat up, or they don't want to lose. But Billy has gone through that so many times that in the fight, when he hits the wall, it's a very familiar feeling, and he's still able to push. And that's where I wanted to get him, and that's where he's been for years. He hasn't lost in years.
Yeah, that's something special that you see in special athletes, that ability. I do that a lot when I train. Like when I'm training, I'm an old man, and I know that when I train and I'm competing, I know that there's going to be moments when there's going to be a bigger, stronger, more athletic kid that's younger than me that's going to be able to push that pace. So when I'm training, when I'm having a bad day, like I don't want people to take it easy on me. I want you to grind me. I want you to come hard because I want to know what that feels like. I want to know that when you go out and compete, I have that in me. I've been there. I'm cool with that. And great fighters understand that. Young fighters that want to go out and just look good, everything's about being on top. They call them front runners. Everybody wants to be a stud as long as they're in the front. No one wants to know what it feels like to be at the bottom and face that adversity. When you start to go up the ranks, particularly into the UFC, you're not always going to be the biggest, strongest guy in the cage. You're probably usually not going to be, and you're going to find guys. Everybody's going to push you, so you have to learn how to deal with that, man.
Yeah, for sure.
Real quick, I just got to say, Kev, no matter who it is we're talking about, if they're a friend of yours, you'll compliment the crap out of them, but you're going to get in one or two like really debilitating like digs that I'm just like, shit, I'm so glad I don't train with you, homie, because you'd rip me apart. You're just like, Billy's great. He always fucking loses the first round, though. Like, he can't fucking, this fucking kid is like, he needs to get knocked flat on his face for it.
Those of you that don't know,
I usually got to ding him in the head a few times before he's really good.
Kevin doesn't have like that sensor that says maybe I should or shouldn't say this. We were with Carlos Condit many years ago at a UFC in an airport, and he had just lost to what's his face?
Higgs, John Riggs, the big rig, big rig,
Johnny Hendricks.
Johnny Hendricks.
Yeah.
Right.
And, he lost a lot based on wrestling. He got taken down a bunch and all that. And Kev's like, no, it's all good, man. No big deal. He's like, you could have trained wrestling for the whole year and you still wouldn't have been able to stop that tape. I was just like
you can literally see Matt go like, hey, good talking to you, Carlos. I think
the look on Carlos's face after Kevin said that was just pure, like, wow. And then like just disappointment. He's like, he's probably right. He's already upset he lost the big fight, Yeah. I don't get too surprised much with
no, I don't either sometimes. I'm surprised I say things, but I just got to the point where I just realized it's just gonna happen. There's not much I can do about it. I'm not gifted with that switch.
I think like we're going to talk about that. That's a really good point to go into. We're going to talk about your career and your martial arts journey. But I think I would love to talk more about, for right now, you assembling this island of misfit toys in your gym. You've got all stud athletes, but it does seem like there's a lot of very eclectic personalities going on, like all around the place. What was it like, starting the gym? Like that's always a rough process, especially in this industry. And did you notice that it was attracting a certain type of person, or were you going out looking for a specific like gym environment? Like when you built your gym, what did you envision for it in terms of like personality?
Well, we started in 2007, so that was right when I got off the Ultimate Fighter. I was a brown belt, and I had two partners at the time, Rob Kahn and Ron Nagel, because I was still fighting in the UFC. I had just gotten a contract, and I needed help. So we started it, and honestly, I had no clue what to expect. I knew Jiu-Jitsu, crazies come all the time. Even when I was training up at Rob's, and I see the personalities that come in, everybody's cool, but like you said, it could attract some crazy people too. And so from 2007 to 2009, I was fighting in the UFC and running the school, and I knew I had to choose one eventually so I could put 100% into it instead of the 50-50 I was putting into both. But we got our crew. There's all different types of people, all different walks of life. We have a bunch of lawyers. For some reason, lawyers love jiu-jitsu. You know, we have guys from every blue collar, white collar, and everything and in between. You know, you got the Gothics, you got the whatever. Honestly, I had no clue to expect. I just needed memberships to stay open. So whoever came, they were getting signed up and they were coming in. They were going to join the family. And crazy enough, even 13 years later, we still have a huge handful of people that were in that first gym we started. It was a 1,200 square foot spot, like really thin and long, almost like a hallway. And we stayed there for 2 years, had about 40 students, moved into the next spot, Choice Fitness, which was this 3,500 square foot fitness center. We were in the back of it. And then we moved on up to this next place. And now we're in, I think, our 5th or 6th place now. And we got 9,000 square feet. 500 students, and man, Kevin knows, you just walk through, there's everybody, man. Like you said, the land of misfit toys. There's just a bunch of personalities, but I love it, man. Like, it's pure entertainment all day. I mean, like, you don't get bored in that place. I'm in there. I get, for some reason, I can hear everything from my office. It's this little office in the back, and like the whole gym's around it. And if you're like on the other corner, I don't know if it's the acoustics or what, but I just hear everything. And if I can't, I got my cameras. Sometimes I just take an hour off of working and just listen. I'm like, man, this is crazy. Some of the stuff I hear.
So like I think about this a lot, and I think about just what you put together, because your gym is a monolith. You know what I mean? Like you have really put together an impressive gym. And I'm not saying that just because you're my head instructor and my coach and my friend. Like, just looking at other gyms and what you've been able to put together. I mean, what is it? 12 black belts you put out now?
15 booze counting.
15, right? 15 black belts you put out. 2 UFC fighters. A bunch of fighters that are either on the cusp or well on their way to becoming UFC fighters. Like, how do you feel looking on that 1,200 square foot building you started with to what you've put on and managed to put together now as like the patriarch, Master Matt of Gracie Tampa South? How does that make you feel?
I mean, it feels great. I'm able to, make a living doing what I love to do. I mean, I think that's all we could really hope for. That's the most thing we can hope for in life, is to be able to do that, like make money, and not just like a little bit, but make a living, doing every day what you love to do and being around what you love to do. So that was always the goal. Like, there was no money in the beginning. There was really nothing in the beginning. It was just training and just doing more of what you love to do. And then, I got my black belt in 2009, and we kept pushing forward with the gym. And in 2009 was the big year, because that's when I stopped fighting MMA. And I can't believe it's already 11 years ago. But and that was when I was able to put 100% of my focus and effort and dedication into learning how to make a gym successful and implementing that, and just seeking out mentors and coaches and just really pushing forward with that. Then we started to grow. Then we started to get these athletes in. And then we started, now I was able to actually pay my bills, which, from 07, 09, I was just living off of UFC money, which I only fought like once or twice a year. So it wasn't much, but it was enough to get by, I guess. But now once you get a little comfortable and you don't have to worry about, I got to pay my electric. You don't have to worry about that. Now you can actually focus on making it great and making a program and actually putting things in place and systems in place to develop fighters, to develop jiu-jitsu athletes, to develop a curriculum, to develop a program where people could actually get good, have fun, and move up in the rankings. Now, we decided to do MMA instead of just jiu-jitsu. A lot of people just go the jiu-jitsu route and just have a jiu-jitsu school. But we decided, MMA, striking, wrestling, and jiu-jitsu. So we started that from the get-go. And, we've had some guys in 08, 09 do some fights and all that. But then in 2010, we had a nice crop of guys. Billy Q was in that crop of guys.
Matt Frevola.
Matt Frevola was in that crop of guys. Alon Cruz, who's now in the UFC, also was in that crop of guys. Alan Monsta Barubi was in there. And we just, a lot of those core guys just stayed together. And another part I think that really helps, that a lot of people don't do, and I think people are starting to do it now, is just like the self-improvement stuff. Like, I could teach you all day how to fight. I know all the techniques, right? I know a lot of jiu-jitsu techniques. I know a ton of MMA techniques. But why does 1,000 people come through the door and only one make it into the UFC? And it's self-improvement. You have to write your goals down. You have to you have to turn yourself into the person who doesn't quit when adversity hits. Okay, like I could teach Billy Q everything I know, and then I could teach Billy Q's twin brother, which he doesn't have a twin brother. Go take Matt Frevola, because he does have a twin brother. Maybe they're the exact same caliber athlete. Maybe they have the exact skills. I teach them both the exact same thing, but maybe Matt was more prone to reading books instead of watching Netflix, or, just writing his goals down instead of just, winging it and things like that. And then like really working on himself. That's how you turn yourself into the person who, when, not if, disaster strikes, everybody has disasters in their life, crisis. Life is just a series of crises that you have to manage, and how well you manage those and move forward through it is ultimately how you're going to succeed. Because why did Billy and Matt make it? But I'm not going to name any names, but I can name at least 100 guys right now on this podcast that came in and said, I want to be in the UFC. You watch. And why are they not there? Okay. So it's a million reasons. It could be, athletic stuff, things like that. But guys of similar athletic caliber didn't make it. Now, desire plays a big role. Billy and Matt really wanted it. Like when we wrote their goals down, I still have Matt's, I don't know why I don't have Billy's, but I still have Matt's written goal in 2010. He's like, I want to be in the UFC, buy this. I want to be a champion, buy this. I want to be a blue belt or a purple belt, buy this. And he did it every year. Billy did it every year. I had them read books. Like that part of it is missing from most camps and most fighters. They're a lot of the guys are street kids, and they just think it's just about the brawl. But it's about pushing through adversity. Between Matt and Billy, I could name on almost two hands. They've all had how many surgeries they've had. They're still doing it. They're still fighting. They're still going. Marriage, divorce. I'm not saying from Billy and Matt, but just in general, marriage, divorce, moving locations, having a baby. All these things are things that happen. I'm not saying those are all crises, but those are big life-changing things where people lose their focus and lose their goal and never push forward through it. So that's just as important as all the other stuff, because I could take a BJ Penn athlete, who was the prodigy, right? But if he's not pushing through, that's the end of him. That he was like, oh, that guy was pretty good. What happened to him?
Yeah. I real quick. I know for a fact what happened to Billy Q's goal sheet. Kev G saw him one day, threw it out, and was like, "This kid's not going to make it."
Never.
I gotta dig it up. When I was going through all my old papers, I did find Matt's only for some reason. I couldn't find the rest of them, but I'll find them.
Billy's a special guy, man. He really is, dude. Like I've been around that kid, and believe me, when you know Billy, you know how much it pains me to give him these compliments because he's such a pain in the ass. He really is. He loves to talk trash, and he loves to poke, and he loves to argue, and he loves to do all these things. But 100%, like there's no denying the special athlete that Billy Q is, his ability to push through things, his ability to overcome, and his absolute and utter belief in himself, an unfaltering belief in himself is amazing to me.
So see, some guys, everybody has an ego, right? Billy has a very large one as well, but he uses it very well. Like the way I say it is, you got to drop your ego in the gym, which is hard to do, and then you got to resurrect it at the fight or at the competition. You have to be in your fight. You have to think you are the man. You're not going to lose. You can't lose. And he does that well. And then like, he probably would have rather died than to lose to this guy. Like number one, because he's Canadian, because I guess in Buffalo,
I used to train up in Buffalo. The beef is harsh. I mean? Yeah.
So like, I try to find guys for him to fight like that. Like for Matt Frevola, same thing. Like Kama Worthy would have been a great opponent for him because Billy beat him. And there's no way Matt would lose to him ever in his life because
you'd have to kill him.
One simple fact. So
you'd have to kill him.
You'd have to kill him. That's why you got to use ego to your advantage. I think Matt and Billy both do that very well.
Right.
We all have egos. Let's face it. I mean, we're
do you when you're looking for opponents, when you're actively trying to find ways to motivate your fighters, are you thinking about these little subtle mental cues and these little subtle mental challenges to motivate the guys?
Yeah, if they present themselves, I'm all over it, man. I like to have them in the process, and some managers are like, hey, these are the three guys. Now tell me which one you want to fight, and I see that and I understand that, but I love to have them in the entire process, even up to the last decision of picking who we're going to pick, because if if they give me an opponent that they really want to fight, there's a reason for that. Even if I think, wait, that's a terrible matchup or that's not a good matchup or whatever, just the fact that they're like, I want this guy. That's like the untouchables. That's the, what's the word I'm looking for? Not untouchables. The intangibles. You know, like that people don't think about when a fight happens. If he thinks that he could beat him, that's more important to me than if I think it's a good matchup or if whatever, because that's the most important part. I'm not in there. They're in there. So when
and he's going to be supremely motivated now because he's I've screwed this guy. There's that motivation of self-will.
Was talking about Alex Caceres or Caceres or whatever.
Right.
And I think Alex is a great fighter. And I think that would be a freaking battle. But in Billy's head, he said, you know, that's a great fight. I want that. And I'm like, and in my head, that's going to be a 3-round war. But at the same time, I know Billy could beat him. If I didn't think any of these guys could beat these guys, I would, and I have before said, we're not taking that fight. Or if I think it's just a really, anybody could beat anybody. But if I think it's a really bad matchup, maybe the guy takes him down for 3 rounds and just sits on him. And I think that they are able to do that to my guys. Like I've declined fights before. I've declined fights before and not even told the athletes.
Let's talk a little bit about you now, because I'm going to try to segue this into some of your psychological warfare that you do. And like, there's Matt's nickname is No Regard. And for those of you that know Matt Arroyo, know that nickname fits very, very well. I've seen you negotiate with weight cuts when guys that don't make weight. You know, I've seen you literally belittle fighters to their face. I've seen you, and this is true. He won't debate this at all. And I've seen you while coaching against other fighters do things that will get inside of that fighter's head during the course of a match.
Sure.
Tell me in your mind how you rationalize that to not feel like it's coming over the top. And maybe you don't. I'm just curious how you feel about that in the strategic aspects, the mental game of that, why it's okay in the fight game.
Sure. Well, number one, you know, there's a book called The Go-Getter. It's about this thin, and everybody should read it because it just talks about a story of someone who was going for this job and like the person didn't want to hire him. So he just was I'm relentless, and anybody who knows me knows I'm relentless. Like it would take 15 no's for me to finally accept it if I ever do. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm a little impatient as well. So put someone who's OCD, relentless, and impatient, and you got a problem. You know, either a problem or if I try to use it to my advantage and make it a good thing. So, and I have high expectations for people too, especially people who are close to me, people who are my friends, people who, you know, are my athletes, and you know, some people, you know, like in the past, you know, if you're not making weight, you know, let's say it's one of my fighters, I'll sit on the door and you're not getting out. You know? Now, can the person die there? Of course. But, you know, I play the odds. The odds are they're not. They're just being a baby. You know, get in there. I've cut 15 pounds in a week, you know, in a day. I know that it could be done. So there's that. You know, I think you might be talking about a time when one of my athletes, Troy Gerhardt, was about to do a title fight against the guy. I'm not going to name his name.
Right.
And the guy, either he didn't make weight or he did something where he backed out the day of the fight. Troy trained 8 weeks for this fight. So I was like, I got to find this kid's number. I'm calling him. Like most people would not do that, but I'm like, you know, maybe I actually called with good intentions. I actually called to like be a mentor and say, dude, you don't want to do this. Get in there. You win, you lose, you lose. You know, you're not going to get fights anymore. But he didn't pick up, so I left him a nice message, and not really a nice message, you know, like because then I was a little pissed off because he was ignoring me. But yeah, like you know, you're going to back out the day out. Like, what are you doing? This, that, and you know, so there's things like that. But you know, as far as the mental stuff in the fights, you know. It's just what I see. Like if I see the guy getting too confident, I'll try to say things that might make him unconfident. Like for example, Billy had his back taken in the Contender series by Camuela Kirk, a really good black belt in Jiu-Jitsu. And I would say stuff like, "You're exactly where you want to be, Billy. He's going to burn all his energy out, and then in round 2, you're going to take over. So let him stay on your back. You're exactly where you want to be. Let him keep squeezing because we know he's not going to get it." So I'll yell this in the UFC fight, and Billy would just kind of chuckle, but at the same time, it freaking happened.
Right.
And because by me saying that, he was like, screw this guy, I'm going to choke this guy. And then after the fight, I'm going to look at him and say, oh, what happened? You know, I know they want that because fighters are ego driven. Always. We all are. But especially fighters. And, you know, so in round 2, he was a little more tired. Billy beat him up. And in round 3, he got finished. You know, so things like that. Give me an example of what you're thinking of, Kevin.
Well, I mean, those are all great examples. One in particular was when my match against Tex Johnson. Like, there was definitely a moment where I think you called him an ugly bastard or something like that. It was definitely a moment where you but I have seen you coaching Matt's side. You and Tex don't have a thing. You did the same thing when he fought against Gorilla, one of our other black guys. Yeah. But there's like I've seen you again do things to opponents to get inside of their head to elicit response in a strategic manner that is helping your fighter.
Yeah. No, you play to the ego. I mean, that's all it is, really. I mean, yeah. The one thing I remember when he was Tex was going against Gorilla, this is a long time ago, maybe 7-8 years ago. They were playing feet, you know, they were going 50-50, whatever. And Gorilla's really good with that stuff. And I honestly, it was the first time I'd ever heard of or seen him, so I didn't know if
brown belt back then. It's wild.
Yeah, he was just an MMA fighter, I think. But I didn't know if he was good or not at legs. But I was like, oh yeah, that's exactly where, because they were in the 50-50. I go, that's exactly where we want to be. He's gonna try to rush out of here. He'll tap here shortly. So he looks right at me and he gives me like the, you know, and I'm like, yeah, go ahead, keep playing. And then Gorilla kept going after it, and then he did end up trying to exit that position.
I love how, real quick. I love how like your examples of your corner side advice are very much like positive. You're exactly where you want to be. But Kevin goes to no, you called that guy an ugly bastard.
Yeah,
he's too good. He won't take the bait.
Your chest piece is terrible. I can't understand what's happening.
Yeah, like because then like shortly after I said all that, Tex had Gorilla in a single leg, and then they were right next to me, and he tried to throw him into me.
Right.
So that was fun. And then with Kev, the same kind of thing happened, but. Hey, listen, if I could get in your head from the sideline, then you're not that mentally strong anyway. Like if I'm going to elicit a response, you know, like where you're going to go extra hard to go after Kevin because I yelled something, that's great for Kevin because you're out of your game. You're not in that the cortex anymore. You're in like, you know, that aggressive mode where you're going to make mistakes. So I always try it, and if it works, and I try not to be disrespectful unless they kind of like start talking back to me like dude, I'm coaching my fighter, you know, then I can get a little more nasty, but I try not to be nasty in the beginning. I try to more so elicit response. I want to see them get angry. I want to see them get upset. I want to see them make a mistake or try to prove me wrong. Like, oh, there's no way he's going to catch a rear naked choke. Let him keep trying. So he's going to try extra hard. And maybe that one day that goes against me and they tap my guy in it. But most time I wouldn't do it if I didn't think the fighter, like Kevin's impossible to get from the back. Billy's really hard to get from the back. I know when guys get their backs, they're going to be okay. Let them burn a little energy so that when we get on top, we can blast them.
Yeah. You know, in the way I think of it too is like when I watch you, I'm talking a lot of trash about this because I'm just trying to make it fun. But like the reality of it is like, you know, most of the time, just like you said, you're not doing these things unless you already sense some kind of a weakness from an opponent that's already mentally weak in one way or another. Maybe they've already, like in the case of Tex Johnson, a lot of times he will be the first one to kind of toe that line to start there going. I always say that. I'm not the type of guy. I'm usually a pretty clean cut guy. I usually play pretty fairly. But if you want to start pushing that boundary, if you want to start playing that mental game, you want to start playing this whole like ego alpha male thing, like I can do that with the best of them, and I can get inside of anybody's head. You know what I'm talking about? So what I see with you is the idea that you don't, you know, you're there and you're trying to be cool, but as soon as you open up that line, as soon as you cross that, now it's on. Now it's fair game because you allowed it to happen.
Yeah, I thought of another example. Just in Billy's last 2 fights, the guy Spike Carlisle. You guys remember him? The Alpha Ginger.
Right.
So what I also use that I just thought about is what they say in their pre-fight interviews in the fight in coaching. So he said, "I'm going to exercise the demons" or something like that. He's going to exercise Billy's demons, or he's going to something like that. So like while Billy was hammering him and I knew he was tired, this is just for my own sick pleasure. I say, "Billy, exercise the demons," you know, because what that does is it'll either snap the guy out of it and make him want to fight harder, or he's just like totally like, not only is he getting physically beat up, but now he's getting mentally beat up by me at the same time. And you know, with this other guy, you know, he said he's going to knock Billy out in the first round. Billy's not a killer. That's what he said. Billy's not a killer. I could see it in his eyes. So while Billy's punching him in the eyes, you know, I'd say something like, you know, Billy, yeah, I know you're not a killer, but keep punching him in the eyes. You know, you know, like things like that. Right. I like to say because number one, it's fun, and number two, like I said, we can give him while Billy or Matt or somebody's giving him a physical beatdown. I'm going to mentally beat him down at the same time. and honestly, shortly after that, the fight's over.
Right.
Very shortly after that.
Billy, punch him in the eyes so he can't see how you're not a killer.
Yeah, not bad for someone with no power and who's not a killer. Keep going, Billy.
Yeah, he must have been looking in somebody else's eyes. I don't know how you think about Billy Q watching his highlight reel and I think that kid's not a killer. You're out of your mind, brother.
I'm just kidding. That's the next time we have him on the show. That's what I'm gonna. My first question will be, dude, how have you been so successful without being a killer? I just don't understand.
Insane.
So another thing I notice about you, just being around you as much as I have, is like your unflappable positivity. Like no matter what happens, I remember we talked about this recently, and I actually kind of thought about it and molded over a little bit. You said that you never feel stress. Like there's never a part of you that dwells on stress. It's you're always capable, and you always have it in you to consciously make a conscious decision based upon rational thought. Tell us a little bit about how you've attained that level of positivity. And I'm sure it has a lot to do with the preparations you put into it. But tell us about how that has helped you and how it affects you.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I did say that, but it's not true. I do feel stressed for sure. I'm a human. I feel it. I didn't never stay there though. Like I'll stay there for 5 minutes. And then, so I guess I'm just I'm a move forward machine. I don't know if that's just conditioning from childhood, you know, being disappointed or whatever it could be. I just move forward. And I don't take things here. Like I don't leave it here. It doesn't go here. It goes here. And then I think about it. Okay. Is this personal? Is this whatever? And if it is, or even if it isn't, I just say, screw it. And I go forward. Like if it's not helping me go forward, it's gone. It's gone forever. So I don't know how I got that. A lot of people are envious of that because I do sit in my office with a lot of my students and people who are depressed. And like, I can never picture myself depressed, like or of course I get like moments of it, but I can never picture myself staying there for too long. It would be, and I'm talking about minutes, like an hour. Like after that I got to go forward, and I don't know how I do that. I don't know why I do that. All I know is I do that, and if it's not helpful to me, I leave it behind, and if it's helpful to me, I'll bring it up and we'll move forward. And that's always how I've been. And some people call it no regard. Some people call it insensitive. Some people call it, you know, apathetic, whatever you want to call it. It's served me. It's served me. I don't feel what most people feel. Some people even call it, no, I'm not going to bring that up. Never mind. I don't know who's listening. Never mind. I'm not going to bring that up. But yeah, you can call it what you want. I know for a fact, maybe one day I freaking go nuts, but I don't even think that. I don't even feel that. Like I don't even feel like one day that could happen, like where I just go postal. But because I never let it build.
You amaze me in that regard. And one of the things that I always find the most amazing about you, I'm amazed by you for a multitude of things. I always you're definitely one of my my mentors and someone that I look up to, and
Thank you,
you're my black belt instructor and blah 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 blah. One of the things that I really find the most amazing about you is your ability to never show any pain. Like I've never seen you, very rarely, maybe when you had the third kid and you opened up the second business and I've never seen you show. It's like as soon as it's showtime, as soon as you're teaching class, you put the face on, you go do your business. No one would ever recognize that there was ever anything wrong with you or ever anything that's struggling with you. And your ability to compartmentalize that is something that I admire greatly, because I wish I was better at that sometimes.
Thanks, man. Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, and some people believe this, some people don't. I'm not here to try to change anybody's beliefs, but my big secret, my big thing is God, Jesus, man. Like every time I feel, because I do feel, sometimes I get so overwhelmed. Like I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm trying to do all these things at once. and all this crap's happening. And then whenever I feel that way, and this is my process, and everybody's got their own process, first thing I do is I grab a piece of paper and I mentally just take it out of my brain. Because if it stays there, then it can get heavy, right? So I just take it out and I put it on the paper. And I, like you said, I compartmentalize everything. So I take, like, say, 10 pieces of paper. All right, business. This is what all my crap that's on my mind that I got to get done, that I don't even know what the hell I'm doing here. Boom. Family. All right, this is all the family stuff we got to do. We're going here. We're going there. I got to get this to the doctors. Da, da, da. All right, friends. These are my friends who need help with this and that and this and that. And, and I compartmentalize it all. And, dude, the second I do that, I'm like, wow. I literally just took a 50-pound load off my back. And then I look at the things. What could I control right now? What could I fix myself? And there's not a lot of it. Like, some of it, like, I have to just wait. That's my biggest thing, is I got to wait for somebody else or wait for something to happen before I could do something. Probably my biggest pet peeve, but that's what I have to learn. That's what I'm working on. And the things that I can't control, I'm like, okay, I'm just waiting on this. In my head, I mentally, like, grab the papers and just throw it up. I'm like, God, just take this. However this is supposed to turn out, and however you think that this should happen, it's out of my control. I'm going to work on the things I can control. I already circled the things I can't control. I'm going to work on that. But this stuff, I'm just going to give this to you, and I'm not even going to give it a second freaking thought. And every freaking time I do that and I walk forward the next day, crap just comes out the way it's supposed to. And it's almost effortless. Like, I just sold the North School, and I had some issues doing that. I was trying so hard. And COVID hit. I have to work on the South gym. I opened the North gym for different reasons, and I did it, and I helped. And but now I need to work on the South gym because it did take a hit, right? So I didn't have time to do that. So I forced it, and it wasn't working out. Things were falling through. And then all of a sudden I did what I just told you guys. And within like a day or two, Josh Best was, my longest student. I was like, Josh, it just sparked in my head. And about 8 days after I brought it up to him, he bought it. Like, he's already there. Like, it's completely a compartment out of my brain, out of my worries anymore. Of course, I'll be there if he needs me to help him, but it's gone. And I didn't fight it. I didn't try. Like, I didn't try for that. That just happened. Like, and again, some people are Christian, some people aren't. Some people are spiritual, some people aren't. Call it what you want. But every freaking time I've ever done that, good things have come from it. It just worked out the way it was supposed to. So people say, "Oh, what's your secret? What's your secret?" If I had one, I just shared it. That's not a secret anymore. That's what I do.
That's something to behold too, because again, it deals with the whole theme of everything we're talking about. Now, you put yourself in uncomfortable positions because you become adjusted to dealing with, just like Billy. When you're training hard, you go those extra 5 rounds, so now you're there for it. You're used to it. When you start to focus on the things you can control, and then you tell yourself, you know what, the things you can't control, whatever's going to happen with them is going to happen with them. And like throughout the course of our lives, all kind of bad things happen, but there's not much left in the world that you are not prepared for. And when you just say, okay, whatever's going to happen is going to happen, now you're not anticipating good or bad. You're just accepting, okay, this could go bad or this could go good, but unfortunately I can't do anything about it. So when it happens, I'll address that, and then we'll reassess what I can do and what I can't do and what I just let go.
That's exactly right.
It's good insights, man. I got one.
Many people worry though. They just take that with them.
You waste so much time,
and then they don't sleep. And then when not sleeping opens up a whole new world of problems for you, because you're thinking about it all night, and you're like,
you're dwelling on it, dude, wasting energy.
Yeah, you can't control that. Don't focus on that. Easier said than done.
Easier said than done, right? You only have so many hours in a day, and if you're wasting hours on things you can do nothing about, then you're not focusing on the things you can do. And it's like the butterfly effect is the book you always talk to me about. Is that the one it's called, the butterfly effect, or the compound effect, right? Yeah, the idea of working on small little things, and those small little things start to compound together. If you're focusing on things you can't change, then you're not focusing on the small things that will eventually probably overshadow the things that you thought were impossible in the beginning. Yep. But let's move on. One more thing. We got about 5-10 more minutes with you because I love you. I'm gonna make you sit down for another. I know you're busy, but I'm gonna make you stick the whole hour in. I know you got it penciled out on your paper, but I'm getting my hour out of you. Going to see Matt is like going to see The Godfather. I have to literally make an appointment. Then you got to wait outside. You tap on the door. My daughter's baptism today, Master Matt.
You come to me on the day of my daughter's wedding.
So I want to get a few of your opinions on modern professional grappling, just because it's a new thing. For us like me and you that have been around before. I mean, the modern professional grappling was like, Grappler's Quest, or maybe going to a Naga, or if you went to the ADCC and, maybe you got paid, maybe you got some sponsorship. There was nothing even close to the world we're living in now.
Right.
How do you feel about the directions that's going in a couple different ways? And first of all, I want to talk about what you feel is going to be the best, like, rule set, because that's the biggest problem is rule sets all over the place. But tell me some of the things you think about that professional grappling in general.
I love it, man. People can almost make a living just competing in jiu-jitsu tournaments. So now, if you have a name, right? So now when you're a white belt looking to get your black belt, you could aspire to be a professional athlete in jiu-jitsu. I don't think you're going to make millions of dollars. Like everybody asks me, is there money in jiu-jitsu? Is there money in jiu-jitsu? It's the biggest question I get by white belts. And is there money in jiu-jitsu? I don't know. I mean, if you open up an academy, there is. If you teach seminars, there is. As far as competing, you have to earn that right to make money. You're not going to make money as a white belt, a blue belt, things like that. The tournaments you do from white to purple, brownish are going to be paying your dues. If you got to go the IBJJF route, if you want to do the submission only route, the EBI rules route, those kinds of shows, they put purple belts on there and all that, but they're not really paying them. Maybe they'll give them ticket money, things like that. But until you get a name for yourself, which you really shouldn't get paid until you make a name for yourself. What professional sport in the world are you getting paid before you make a name for yourself? Until you get good. But assuming you're really, really good and you're tapping out people on the local scenes everywhere, and now you're like up with the big boys, like my good friend Wagner Rocha, he's killing it in that tournament scene, man. He's competing almost every weekend, at least twice a month, and he's getting paid well. He could, if he quit his school and all that, I think in the last 2 years he could live off of and have a decent living off of just competing. But you got to be a Wagner Rocha to do that, right? And some of these kids, like William Tackett, I guess he was a purple belt. I don't know if he got promoted or what.
Yeah.
Guys like him, he could probably make a living right now as a kid. He's a kid. He's I don't know. He's 19 still, 20, 21.
I think he's still 19. I met him recently when I was out in Iowa for the BJJ Woodstock show. He's one of those next level guys. He's going to set the world on fire, but he's going to be real polite about it too. He's incredibly polite guy.
Absolutely. If you're marketable, you speak well, and you're killing black belts as a purple belt, I mean, this is marketable. They want you on those shows. Hey, I wonder if he could beat this black belt. I wonder if he can beat this black belt. But really, how many freaking black belts do you got to beat to get your brown belt or get your black belt already? He should probably be a black belt.
Right. He's just a kid. He hasn't been training long enough.
Yeah, he hasn't been training. And who knows? Maybe in his gym, at the level, maybe he is a purple belt at his gym. You know what I mean? Maybe there's so many good guys there that's where he should be. Or maybe for his potential, that's where he should be. I don't know. I'm just naming him because I saw how young he was and how he's beating a lot of good guys now. But guys like him, when I was 19, how much freaking money do you need to survive? Like, you can live off very low, so he could probably, and he probably is, doing this for a living. All right, mom, dad, I'm not going to college. I'm going to go this route. I could always go back to college. But so now this is actually possible. When I first started jiu-jitsu, this was not possible. You didn't make money competing. Like in Abu Dhabi, I think they paid you a few grand, but you got to make it to Abu Dhabi to make that money. There wasn't really pro shows. Metamoris back in the day was the first real one that was actually paying people to come out in a real card, like an MMA fight.
Up until they weren't paying people.
Up until they weren't. Yeah, I was involved in
that. That's actually
I know, they still owe you money.
Yeah.
That's actually a really interesting question. Even though we are still seeing a lot of fraud in the professional jiu-jitsu scene, like BJJ stars most famously, and hopefully they're the last guys. But Metamoris, they had a lot of rough issues with that. In a vacuum, assuming that jiu-jitsu was as profitable as it is now, back when you were first getting into, combat sports and jiu-jitsu, do you maybe focus more on professional jiu-jitsu as opposed to MMA, or are you still going into MMA the way you did, if that makes sense?
For me personally, I probably still would have done MMA, but I would say for 90% of the people, it's like if it's just as big, and it's doing well, to make money, like Like, look at guys like Rodolfo Vieira, guys like Buchecha. Like, even today, they're going to MMA. You know, like, I don't think it's because they love MMA. Like, I think it's because they want to make a crap load of money and get a crap load of fame to get more opportunities to make more money.
You got to get the
Rodolfo
bag.
Vieira is still undefeated. He's taking everybody down, passing their guard, getting their back. I don't know if he wants to be in there. Like, I bet you if he can make that same money doing jiu-jitsu, he would do that. You know, I don't think it's ever going to get to that kind of money, but maybe eventually. Like, you got your outliers, like your Gordon Ryans, you know, making probably millions of dollars, maybe. I don't think it's competing. I think he makes a lot more money doing his instructionals than he does competing, but he still makes a shitload of money competing. You know, guys on that team, the Death Squad, they're making good money. Gary Tonin. So you got like the guys that are really good at, like Wagner Rocha, the guys that are really good at making money in professional grappling because of the output and how much they're doing it. And then you got the guys who may never get there. So that's the other thing. Like, just because you're good doesn't mean you'll get on that stage. Same with MMA. Just because you're a great fighter doesn't mean you'll get to the UFC. Some of it's political. You know, if you're the best in the world, you're the absolute best. Of course, you're going to get there and you're going to make a ton of money. But I love it. To answer your question, I love the professional grappling. I love that guys can make a living, even if it's someone like me and Wagner who own a school, and that's where we make our living, to make an extra living, and extra money on top of that. You know, and doing what we love and competing. You know, you get to travel to different cool places. You know, where's Polaris? Is that in London?
London, yeah.
Yeah. How cool would that be? You know,
Right.
EBI, you get to go to LA, things like that. You know, I haven't been too involved lately because I'm having 50 kids and I'm getting a little older. But at the same time, you know, I did EBI. That was, you know, I lost, but it was an amazing experience. You know, and you get money and they pay for your flight. Like, that was unheard of back then.
Right.
And they pay for your hotel. You know, Abu Dhabi was awesome. I wish I was in Abu Dhabi now that Mo Jassim is running it and he's making it all pimp. But that's my plan. I'm actually going to be competing in November for the trials again this year. So, but yeah,
Wow.
I love that people are going to, I can't wait. That people are making money doing this. And it's great. Freaking love it. You know, IBJJF is even starting, from what I hear, to pay people in the black belt division, or they're going to start paying winners.
Yeah, they have been last couple years, last 2 years or so. They've been paying the black belt winners and stuff.
Doing that because they want to. They're doing that because they almost have to now. You know, that's a profitable company.
Right.
You know, they're making millions of dollars. It's the biggest tournament in the world, and they're not paying anybody. But guess what? I mean, at the same time, people always give them crap. If you do win the world, you're going to get paid doing tons of seminars because everyone's going to know who you are. That's kind of like a platform to make money doing a school or seminars or instructionals. You know, you could probably make more money doing instructionals, seminars, and your academy than you ever will competing, you know, at an EBI or a Polaris. So
that's the cherry on top.
Yeah, you know, like, who wouldn't buy a DVD from Buchecha? I would. I have. You know, like, he's won the world, 10 times or more. So it's not all for nothing. Like, you are the world champion. You are the man at this art if you win that, just because you didn't get paid.
I know we're running low on time, but I wanted to get this out. There's a bunch of stuff I want to talk about, so we're gonna have to have you back. But you know, everyone's martial art journey, like specifically with jiu-jitsu, it's really shaped by the people you meet early on and the people that sort of guide you through the belt process. You were awarded your black belt by Rob Kahn, I think in 2009. Is that right?
Yep, December 09. Yep.
December 09. How did you meet Rob?
So I've trained my first official day of jiu-jitsu was March 8th, 2003. The reason I know the date is because it was a hoist, because I'm OCD, and it was a Hoist Gracie seminar. So I stopped. Yeah, I played baseball for University of Tampa. When I stopped playing baseball, I needed something. So when I went home to New York for the summer near Albany, I Googled jiu-jitsu Albany. And that Saturday, so it was a Monday when I did that, that Saturday, there was a Hoist Gracie seminar, and I had followed Hoist all through the UFCs. He was this huge celebrity in my head. Like, this was the man. And I was like, man, if I could find a Hoist Gracie school, even an affiliate, that would be so awesome. And he was actually going to be in town that Saturday, March 8th, 03. I was 20 years old. I'd got a speeding ticket driving there. It was like 40 minutes away. I was so excited. I get in the car, I drive there. I remember I got a ticket. I was like, screw it, I don't care. I kept going. And that was my first official class of jiu-jitsu. And I trained there all summer. I was home for the summer from University of Tampa. I was home for the summer. I trained for 3 months. At the end of the summer, I went to another Royce Gracie seminar. Got my blue belt after 3 months. Probably didn't deserve it, but I was doing well with all the guys that he put me with. And then I went to Tampa. So in 03, 04, I trained with a guy named Craig Bellata, who was a purple belt at the time. And in Tampa, dude, there was no jiu-jitsu. It was that guy, Craig, who had this little club. And then there was Eduardo de Lima in Clearwater, which is where AJ Agazarm and all those guys came from. And I didn't have a car. I was in college. I didn't have a car, so I wasn't going to drive out to the black belt there. So I just trained with him. And one day, the guy who was training me at that Royce Gracie seminar, that school, I trained there all summer, Gary Govel, he called me and said, Matt, there's a guy coming to Tampa. His name is Rob Kahn. He just got his black belt from Royce Gracie. And he is ridiculously good and a good teacher. He's like, you need to train with him. I was like, sign me up. So I find his number. I call him. I say, hey, is this Rob Kahn? Hey, what's up, man? I'm like, oh, nothing, man. He's like, I said, do you have a gym here yet? He's like, no, I don't have a gym, but we're training out of an office. I have 3 students right now. We're training out of an office. Do you want to come train with us? I was like, hell yeah. So I go to this office that they matted up. And it was Rob Kahn, it was Ferret, it was Badger, and all these animals. Ferret, Badger, and
he was
Travis.
training. He was training wild animals in jiu-jitsu.
So Ferret was a 60-year-old man. Badger was probably in his early 50s at the time.
Jesus.
And his son was like 25, and I was like 22. And then Rob, who was 30, 32 at the time. So all these guys in their freaking prime, except the older guy, they all killed me. And I was a blue belt, 1 stripe. And first I go with the old guy. I'm like, he's dead. He guillotined me, armbarred me. I'm like, okay. And they had all been training with Rob for about a month and a half. That's it. So, like, they all sucked. Not all of them, but they were decent. And then after a month and a half with Rob, they were all freaking good. And they were all using the moves that he taught them. And so basically I went one by one to all 4 of these guys and got tapped out by all of them. And then finally it was time to roll with Rob. And I was already like a shell. I was just like, just take my body. Just do it. Not that it would have changed anything anyway. He armbarred me, guillotined me, and then he had mercy the rest of the round and kind of let me work. But that was it. I walked out the door and I was like, okay, I can go back to the club with Craig with the purple belt and 10, 15 students and be like one of the top guys there, or I could train with these guys and I could do something. I can get really good and improve. And it was a quick decision, even though my ego was shot. I was like, I suck. I'm like, I got to go back. So I kept going back to that office, and then he eventually opened a gym, and I was one of his first 5 students. And we got Rob Kahn in his prime every single day, rolling every single day, learning every single day for a whole, for years. And then it got big, and then, it got big. It was, then he had 100 students a year or 2 later. And that was that. I was in the UFC after that. So that's how I met Rob.
Yeah, Rob is such a pivotal figure in the Central Florida Jiu-Jitsu scene. Like, just the amount of talent. You, Rob DiNarfio, Gabe, all Bamboo, all these guys, UFC fighters. The list goes on and on of amazing competitors that have come straight from the mind of Rob Kahn, man. We all love him. We talk all kind of crazy stuff about him, but it's cool to hear stories about Rob Kahn when he was the great and powerful Rob Kahn, competitive in the days of his youth when he was out there tearing it up, man. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Man. Rob's amazing.
I mean, I was only a blue and a purple belt at that point when he was training for MMA fights and all that, but from what I remember, man, it was just disgusting pressure, a ridiculous guard, impossible to pass, arm bars, freaking galore everywhere from every position, pressure when he's on top, and just nastiness. Yeah,
lots of people talk about that, man, like how amazing he was, man. So real quick, I know you got to go. I want to end it on one thing. We got to hear the Uncle Coach Kevin impersonation. You got it in you. You think it's on now. Come on, be a gamer. Let's see it.
I hate doing impressions in front of the people I'm doing impressions for, because
it's all right.
It's one or two things. They either think it's completely off and they're like, oh, that doesn't, either they'll laugh, but that doesn't sound like me, or they get offended.
You will never offend me. I promise. Even if you did, there's nothing I can do about it anyway, man. So what else the difference?
You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about? It's cool. It's cool. You know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about? You know what I mean?
Oh man,
It's
No.
cool.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's cool.
No, we don't know what you're talking about. No one knows. No one ever knows what you're talking about. My dog, man. Well, Matt, man, thanks a lot for coming on, brother. I know you got to get going. I'll see you in a little
Alright,
bit, man.
Well,
But-
real quick, we usually like to we let the guest of honor every episode use this time to plug any sort of things, social media wise or whatnot that they may want out there. Like, do you have anything you want to shout out here at the close? Or?
I'll take it, dude. Yeah, if Instagram at Arroyo MMA. Obviously, if you guys are listening, you like jiu-jitsu. If you go to thejujitsulifestyle.com, you could hit any of my courses, Wagner Rocha, Enrico Coco, Rob Kahn's courses. Joe Lozon's on there, Josh Hayden, Buchecha, Cyborg. We got all those guys' DVDs on my site. That's thejujitsulifestyle.com. If you're in Tampa, Gracie Tampa South, that's the place, or Gracie North. That's it, man. Check out my Instagram. I got to grow that thing. I got like 2,000 something people. I want to get that thing going. I literally just started posting last year.
We'll put the link. Yeah,
we'll put the link up underneath so you can still be there for
yeah, see it. Don't give me a charity follow. I'm gonna put some good stuff up on there. So, and again, also if you ever want to see like behind the scenes of what it looks like in the UFC, I'm always doing stories of that and things of that. You can see Billy's fight, all the behind the scenes stuff they did. They're actually giving us limos now. I don't know if you guys knew that.
I saw that.
Cool.
I saw you and Dan Rollins got your own limos. That was pretty.
Yeah, they're actually separating the coaches that fly in together because of COVID. Not like we didn't just sit together for 5 hours.
Right.
But yeah, they're giving us limos now. The Apex Center and the Performance Institute is just top of the line. Bonkers. Amazing. Like, you've been there.
I haven't been to the Apex. I've been to the Performance Institute twice, but I haven't been to the Apex yet.
Yeah, the Apex is cool. I mean, it's just like their little event.
You're not cool unless you have a picture in the jacuzzi with you. That's the official I am cool as hell from the jacuzzi with the UFC behind anyone that's ever been there takes that picture because that's the official. I made it. I've been to the Performance Institute. I was in the jacuzzi with the UFC symbol behind the box.
Yeah. Me and Kevin are sitting there in the with the boxing gloves and the bags around us, and there's a jiu-jitsu mat, and we're like, is that Forrest Griffin? Yeah. Dude, I turn around for 1 minute to talk to Matt or Billy. I turn back around, he's rolling with Forrest Griffin.
Oh, you know that.
Who wouldn't? Man. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, but like most people be nervous, like, "Hey, Forrest, do you want to roll?" Like Kevin's like, "Yeah, let's roll." Yeah.
Yo, man, just fucking like Forrest, what the hell, man? Like, hey, do I know you? Yeah, man, fucking, we're good.
Eventually, I pissed him off because I told him something about like, yeah, man, you're obviously an MMA fighter because your hips are heavy on top. You don't do a whole lot. But
wow, Kevin,
it's just I can't help myself.
Why
don't people ever call you back? Why don't they ever call you again? I don't know.
It just happens.
Early on when we started this podcast, he was like, hey Kevin, man, I would reach out to more people, but not a lot of people like me. I don't know what I'm saying. I don't know what it is. It's just like I rubbed him the wrong way or whatever.
I don't know what it is. I don't know.
I don't know what it is. You either love me or you don't. Yeah, Carlos Condit's never coming on the show, by the way.
Oh my God.
Go do your thing, man. We appreciate your time. I love you as always. You're amazing.
All right. This has been, I got to close this out here. This has been another phenomenal episode of the Jiu-Jitsu Times podcast. I have been your host, Kevin Bradley, joined as always by my co-host, Mr. Kevin Gallagher. Special thanks again to Mr. Matt Arroyo for stopping by. Catch him on all the social medias and whatnot. We'll link everything down below. But in the meantime, everyone out there that's listening, you stay safe, you stay healthy, remember to love each other. And we'll see you later. Good night.
Boom.